Hello, everyone, and welcome to our January Training Tuesday for OU Campus. Today's topic is Preview Mode Accessibility Checker. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode as the session is being recorded. If you have a question during the presentation, please use the Q&A function found at the bottom of your screen, and we will attempt to address your questions throughout the presentation. If there are any remaining questions we cannot answer during the webcast, we will provide an answer via email. Your presenter today is Billy Woody, software trainer and curriculum specialist. Billy, it's all yours.
All right, let me get my screen shared over to you guys. All right. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys might happen to be. My name is Billy Woody. I'm one of the software trainers here at Omni Update. And as Barbara said, we're going to be going over a preview mode accessibility checker using just CSS to display availability or accessibility issues on your pages. Let's get over here. There we go. Our today, we're going to go over the intended uses for this accessibility overlay, just demonstrate the overlay itself on a couple different types of pages, the creation of the CSS file for the accessibility, and creation of the supporting XML files and edits you might need to do to existing pages. The overlay. So this is going to give you a visual, a quick glance at potentially fixable accessibility issues on a page without having to go through the accessibility checker. So some of the things that this thing is going to be able to show you are like things that are labeled with H tags, so all of your H valued content on your page. It's going to color code those H tags, so you might not realize something is a certain H tag. It's going to color code that text. It's going to highlight images that may have missing or empty alt text values. It's going to identify your broken links. It's going to identify empty links, and then links that might just have a hashtag, because what often happens, people will put in a hashtag as a placeholder and forget they left it there. We're going to identify bolded text that might need to be an H tag. Sometimes when it be instead a section heading. It's going to look for caption fields and tables, identify if they exist or if they're empty. We're also going to highlight empty cells in tables because sometimes people will use tables for formatting, and that can be bothersome to some accessibility readers. And we're also going to identify any uses of the older I for italics or B for bold. This can happen sometimes if content is copied from a site or something like that, and older stuff that's using older HTML, and can create some problems on the page, so we'll identify those. So what this accessibility overlay is not, though, this is not designed as a replacement for like an accessibility checker. This is just a quick way to get an instantaneous view as to some accessibility content on your site itself, so you don't have to go through the actual checker and have it take its time to go through all of that stuff. This just give you a really quick glance over everything that's going on to the on that page. So in the process, basically, we're going to create two different files. For each template that you have, for like each different type of page, maybe like an interior page or a home page, each of those will have its own XSL. So we're going to basically make a copy of that XSL to make the accessibility version of it for the preview. And then also we're going to create our own custom WYSIWYG CSS file that we'll use just for the preview. All right, and so with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into my sandbox here. And so what we're looking at here is basically just a simple interior page that I've created, and we're in preview mode. And you'll notice that this is your standard desktop preview that everybody will have on their pages. And here we've got some content. We've got tables. We've got lots of links, some images, and of course, we have images, links in the header and footer file as well. If I go over to where the desktop preview is currently, you'll see I have two additional preview options that I've created. One's a full accessibility, and one is for the H tag checker. So if I just do the H tag checker first by itself, this is just going to take my page and quickly go through and color code all the different H tags it finds and labels them with what they are. And so here we see these are H1 tags. So I've got two H1 tags on my page. A very quick glance here, I've now noticed I really should not have two H1s on a page. So that's something I would probably go correct. Here in my submenu, I've got an H4. And then down here, we've got some H5. So you see I'm jumping around with different H levels on my page. So these could definitely be problems later on. Here, I've just got some samples of H3, 4, and 5. And then here's a random H1 that just got left at the bottom of the page. Because when I was building it, maybe I deleted some content and forgot there was an H1 tag there. I deleted the content, but I left the H1. So I've got now 3 H1s on the page. So that could be an issue. And that's just the simple H tag checker. The full one, though, this is going to give us a little bit more information about the page as we go through here. So here we see it's color coded a couple of the images. We got the one here in the logo and the header. And then you see this image down here has also been color coded. And if I roll over it, it's going to tell me what the problem is. So for this one here, for example, it has an alt field, but the alt field is empty. So there is no alt information. There's a question from Halloween, I believe it is, on can all users see this checker? Well, basically, it's going to be up to you guys, and you build this because this is not necessarily ready and just included. I'm going to give you all the methods by which this can be created, and then once it's created, it should be available to anybody who's able to edit a page. So, all right. Check this off here. It's being answered. And then also, if we roll up to the top image, if I roll over this one, we see that this one here, the entire alt text field is just missing. It's not there. And if I want to, I can go and actually take a look at that and confirm that. If I go back over to, let's see, where is my page that I have open? Let's go all the way up to where that logo is stored. So that's going to be in our include files. And in my header, there's my logo. I see it right here. So that's the logo that's being used on the page. If I go to the source code for that, you'll see under image, I don't have an alt text here. So it found the fact that it did not have an alt text inside of that image, and it marked it up. So that way I know. And again, just very quick, I'm able to do that. Other things that it'll find, like for example, here, these links, it's letting me know that this link only consists of a hashtag or a pound sign. Here it found a couple more empty cells that can cause accessibility problems that were inside of the header and inside of the menu items here. As we scroll down a little bit further, here it found some bolded text, and it's letting me know that this is bolded text. This could be an H tag, so maybe take a look at that. Inside of the paragraph, it found the use of an older B tag for making bolded text. And it tells you that maybe that you should use strong instead to fix this so you don't run into errors. And the same thing down here, it found the older I for italicizing this text. And again, it's letting you know that you should be using the EM tag instead for that. Scrolling down a little bit more, we see 3 different links here. And each of these links have 3 different problems. So this button text here, it just has an empty anchor tag. So it's surrounded by that A tag, but there's nothing else in it other than text. And so having an anchor tag with nothing in it but text, it can be confusing because it's expecting to be an anchor to something, some kind of link or something associated with that. So this is letting you know you do have an empty anchor tag here. So this link here, again, this consists only of that hashtag. So somebody put in a dummy link in here. And then this one here is this link is broken. And so this is going to show you when you have a link using our dependency manager and maybe a page has been deleted and so that page no longer exists. So it's basically a broken link. You're actually going to see this. This is a link is broken, and this is for those dependency tags where you have broken links. Scrolling down a little bit further, here in these tables, this is letting us know whether or not there is a summary field inside of these tables. And if there is one, it does actually put in what the content of that summary field is here. So you can actually do a quick read and make sure it is what you wanted if you are using summary fields. Again, here it found a couple of empty cells that were used for formatting purposes. So again, this is letting us know and that it can cause problems, and it's highlighting that information. Of course, anything that's normal, it's going to leave it as it is. So we see our image here. There's nothing wrong with this. So it leaves it all just fine. And again, we can just switch back quickly to our desktop preview and go back to see how this looks as it normally would. There we go. All right. So now what I want to do is go through the process of how to create this. the first thing we're going to look at is the creating the actual CSS page. So we're going to go to not where you typically would think you might go for the CSS here. I mean, quite honestly, you could store this just about anywhere, but we're going to store this in the same place the other WYSIWYG styles are set up, and that's in OU under the resources folder. And we're in here, we're inside of the editor folder. So here's where you're going to find in the typical WYSIWYG editor that most of you guys, this is the style that's sheet that's being used for the purposes of when you're editing your pages. This is the style sheet that's being used to do that. So what I've done is gone ahead and create another style sheet in here and called it WYSIWYG-accessibility. And I just started out with a blank file with this. So I just went to new and selected just a blank file and just started building my CSS in here. Now I'll open this up and we'll go through all the stuff that I've done. I won't build all the CSS here from scratch because that will be rather time consuming to go through each of these, but I will go through and tell you what each of them are and what they are doing. And again, all the stuff will be made available to you. I will send a link out with this as well. So I've got everything that I've worked on today is on a page that I created, including the entire CSS. So you'll have all this made available to you as well. Back over to our CSS page. I like to do a lot of commenting on my pages, so you will see lots of comment blocks on here just to make things easy to understand so you know what's going on. So of course, my CSS styles for my accessibility preview. The first thing that this is doing here is I want to color code all of my H tags. So if I go back to this page here and we go to the full accessibility preview again, you'll notice here that it's color coding my H tag. So here, the section 3, section 4. So I can easily point out where they are. So in order to basically colorize those, I've created each of my H1 tags here and just chosen a color for it. So when it uses this style sheet to preview the page, it's going to color all the H1 tags with these different colors that we have here. Next, we want to add in what the H tag is. We'll actually label each of these pieces of text with the H tag. So what I've done with this is used an after command, basically, for lack of a better word, for the H1 tags. So anywhere that it finds an H1 tag after the content of that H1, I want to add in an additional content. And so I'm going to do a dash space H1. I'm going to color it red. And so that's what we are then seeing here. So when it found the section 3 as H3, it colorized it, this color, and then added after it this H3 tag. So it displays very quickly and easily where my H3s are or any other H tags that are in the system. Scrolling down a little bit further here, we're going to get into the locating our bolded text and labeling that as well. So the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to find anywhere we used the newer method, the strong, to bold any text, because typically if it's a bolded text, it's almost people are using that as sort of like a section heading, and we want to make sure that it's actually used as with an H tag, so that with the accessibility reader can read that off, because otherwise it's not going to read that as any other type of section. So when it does find your anything using the strong, it's letting you know that this is bolded and it could be an H tag. So we'll see that on the pages as we saw here at the top. It added it before this time. So we notice over here, back into here, we get the strong and we're adding it before. And then what we're also doing with that same text, when we find it, we are coloring it red. So that way, again, it is highlighted. We know exactly what text it is that is being used, the lorem ipsum here, and letting me know potentially wrong with that. And here we're looking for use of the old B tag for bold. So anytime we find use of the B tag, we're going to add before it the use of B, use strong instead. And again, when you create your own, you can put whatever you want into this text field in here for this content. You can add additional text, delete it, completely do whatever you want into that in terms of adding text. And the same with coloring. I've got just a color background and a color yellow for the background color for these when it highlights and finds those as well. Scrolling down here again, basically doing the exact same thing as we're doing with the bold here, but we're looking for any use of the italics, the old school italics here. So again, before the content that it finds, it lets us know what is being done, and then how to correct that and use a more appropriate uh, tag for doing italics on the screen. And again, you can create your own custom color and background for that to help highlight it, to make it easier to be seen. All right. Now, this next one here, which is a tiny bit more complicated, but really not that much really, is we want to locate anytime an image file is found, and we want to check that image file to see whether or not it has an alt tag present or an alt tag that is empty. So this first one, we're looking for anything that is an image to format. And if that image does not have an alt present at all, it's going to do all this coloring here. So we added a little sepia tone to it. I've done the dashed outline around it, offset it a little bit, and then I decreased the opacity by 50% and made the background black. And so that's what's creating the look that we see on these images when it finds anything wrong with them now. Okay. So once it's found that, what it's then going to do after it's colorized it, it then creates a hover for the image as well. So again, looking for any images that are missing the alt tag, I want to hover over it. And when I hover over the image, I'm going to replace it with that little image that I recreated here that says the alt text field is empty. So I basically have replaced that image. You can create your own image, whatever you want. You can just have an image that says something wrong with this image, whatever it happens to be. But if you want to be more descriptive, I just created an image file with this text in it describing what the problem is. So as you roll over it, you actually see the problem with the file that's there. And I didn't want to just replace the image with that because I wanted the original image to be seen. But just be highlighted in some way so you know that there's a problem with it. So that way you kind of seeing it in context of the page instead of just replacing it automatically. Because if I would have just done just this part here at the bottom and it found any image without the alt text, it would just replace it instantly with that image. And so I would just see that image on the page and not have to roll over it. But I preferred actually seeing the image in context on the page first and then roll over it to see what the problem is. And then for the second one, exact same things are going on here, except that this one is just checking for an empty alt text. So the alt text is present, but it is empty. And so if we again come back over here to our page and we go to the source code for this page and we go down to the image file that we see here, there was one of my broken links that we saw. And there's a couple of our tables. And we scroll down a little bit further. Here is our image file. That's their image slider. Oh, these are all my side panels. I went too far. Apologize for that. There we go. Here's our image. So we see our images here. This is the title and the source, and this one has the alt text. So that's the one that stayed remaining its original color, so it's fine. The second image, though, we see it has an alt, but the alt is empty. So that's why it's getting that accessibility error message that we see there. So if we actually ran the accessibility checker, it would find it as well and give us the full, say that this is also is missing as well. And this also, as you notice, I roll over this is actually checking the little menus that pop up as well and letting us know what's inside of those too. So it's checking everything that's in the page. All right, scrolling down a little bit forward. Here, this is going to check all of the links that are on the page and then give whatever kind of comment I want to make about those links when it finds them. So again, here, if it's finding an A tag with the just a hashtag in as a placeholder, which is done often, which is why I included it here. This lets us know that it's a problem. It's going to colorize it, and so it highlights it so we know exactly what's going on. Here again, if we have an href that's just completely empty, somebody's put it here, there's nothing in it at all. This is going to let us know that the link address is empty, as we see here. And then a broken link. So you may not know this, but when it the the pages are published, if there is a broken link and it's using the dependency tag, it's actually what it's doing on the HTML side. It's actually printing out these words into the href that says broken link. And so using, again, the sort of the checker here, checking to see for anything that has this text in it, broken link, after it's going to add in, this is a broken link. So another quick way to check for broken links on the page as well. And then the last one here was the A tag with nothing in it. So if this A tag does not have an href in it, it's just an empty tag. Again, it's going to print out the fact that it is an anchor tag with nothing in it. Scrolling down just a tad bit further here, we're getting into our table. So this is looking for missing or caption fields that are included and letting us know what's inside of the caption field. And so to go through this and what it's doing, again, we're looking at any table that's being used on the page. And if that table does not have a summary included in it, then before the table, it's going to write then inside of basically the first field, it's going to say no summary field is present on this table. And again, you've got the customization here for whatever you want to make it look like on your page. Again, here, this summary is present. So we've taken out the word not here. So any table with a summary that just happens to be empty, we're going to do before that field, the summary field is present, but empty. And then lastly, again, if I want to actually show what's in the summary field, if it finds one, what it does is when it finds the summary before the content, it's going to take whatever is inside of the attribute summary, which we see right here, the ATTR attribute of summary. So it's going to say the summary field reads : and that makes it have a space here. And then it's going to add in the content that's currently inside of that attribute. So it will add that to the text for that field as well. And then lastly for this, if it finds any cell, so we have this TD here for the cell, any TD that happens to be empty inside of the field itself, basically justified to the left, it is going to then color that field gold and then say the contents for message, it's going to say empty cell can cause accessibility problems. So again, you can put in whatever you want into this content that you like. All right. All right. And so this one here is just another version of it that that I was using. So you can ignore the second one. This is just the same thing that was up here, but color coding it a little bit different. So I'm just doing a little playing around. This is coloring the background with some white smoke coloring. And again, doing this. So just being creative. So once you've done it and you've created it, you can kind of go in and start playing with it. Eric, love the idea of being able to handle and highlight items accessibility errors using CSS. Is there a way to have it activate on final check dialog box or in the accessibility checker? Currently, there is not. This is sort of a work in progress that I've been working on here. So right now, it's sort of a standalone. You build it and just turn it on in the preview mode. But I do like the idea of having something like this overlay available in the final check as well. And I have talked to them about maybe potentially doing something like that later. No promises, but I know it's I've at least put a light bulb somewhere for it. So, but thank you for the question.
Yep, Billy, I'll make a note and bring it up with our UI UX designer.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
All right. So once you create this WYSIWYG accessibility CSS page, you of course do need to save all of your content and you do need to publish this page out. So again, you can publish it out. And so you can, of course, give it whatever version description you want and just go ahead and publish it. And then this page is now done and ready to go. Also, I should point out, in case some of you guys are still using version 10, if the interface I'm working in looks a little bit different than normal, that's because I'm using version 11 here. So just in case anybody was curious about that, I am using version 11. Okay. So the next thing we would want to do, now that we've created our CSS file that we're going to use for this accessibility preview, we need to go in and then create the XSL file for the different templates that we have. So we're going to go
Hey,
back
Billy,
to.
you have one more question about the
Oh,
CSS.
oh, I see that coming up here. What about an anchor tag that has no text content between the open and closing tags? I believe that's what it's currently checking now. If there's no content in the anchor tag at all, if it's empty. Oh, so you're talking about text actually in between the closing and tags. Currently, the CSS can't check that on its own. I'm actually now working on doing a combo JavaScript and CSS overlay. The JavaScript can do that. I can use the JavaScript to check for text in between tags. If there's no text, things like that, then the JavaScript will do a color code. So that's going to hopefully be in another session we do later on this year, where I do the add the JavaScripting to the color to the overlay, and we'll be able to do exactly what you're asking for there, Dale. All right. Back over here to the top of our resources, we're going to go into the XSL. And so, as I mentioned, you're going to want for each XSL file that's being used to build templates, you're going to make an accessibility version of that to be used for the preview. So the quickest way to do that is just to make a copy of the current one. So I'm going to use just my interior XSL, and I've already made a copy of it, and I've just renamed it interior accessibility. So if I click on this file, basically, then what I am going to do is I'm going to add in a line of code to basically tell it to go and get and use that new CSS to be able to apply that in the preview mode. Now, depending on when your install was done, you might be using different types of methods to do this. And I'm going to show today using the XSL template with a link. But again, included on this page over here, depending on the type of files that you guys are using, there's the different options you would use. So here I'm using what's called the additional head code for the XSL template. Others might want to do the OU include file with the capital F. This is an older version, and most of the newer versions use the OU include dash file. And so basically just adding this line inside of one of the template areas on your page will automatically make that connection to the WYSIWYG file. In the sample that I'm doing here, like I said, I'm using the additional head code. So if I scroll down here to the bottom, where is my additional head code? There we go. My additional head code is right here. So there was already an additional head code inside of this particular template that I was using, and it was linking to this file that's right here. So since I already had the add additional head code in this file, I just needed to add another link to continue adding more to the head code. So I added in this second line. I just basically just copy the first one. Is all you needed to do. It's really simple. And then I just linked over to that WYSIWYG file. So I highlighted what would have been here, the old dependency tag, and then using the little insert file path icon on the toolbar, just navigated to that WYSIWYG file that I created, which is in the OU editor. And there's my WYSIWYG accessibility. Insert that. And so that inserted that link. So now that CSS file is going to be added into the head code for this particular preview that I've created. Help you understand where that connection is, where all these files are all connected. So once we've created that file, we want to connect it in here. And again, since this is XSL file, we're going to go ahead and save it here. And you can save versions of it. I like to just publish it anyway and just get, and that way I can put my version in here, put all my information that I want. And so I can just do, final working version of XSL. All right, and we'll publish that out. So that file is all set and done. Now, What I've also done in here is I've done the same thing for my homepage. My homepage has its own XSL file. So I've done the same thing in the homepage. I've gone to the homepage accessibility, and then I've added it in here. Um, and this one did not have a head code in it at all. Did not have an additional head code information. So I just added the entire section then here. And again, I've got all that in that sample page here to show you how to do it. So in this one here, I just said additional head code as the template that's being accessed here. And I'm linking into that head code, that file that has the WYSIWYG content in it, same one as before. And so if I go and I look at my homepage, for example, which I have that available as well, I can click on the full accessibility, and then it'll go through and do the same thing here for the homepage and give me all the same reports as well. So again, for each different type of XSL that you have, you're going to create that, copy that out and then add in that just additional either single line of code or this little 3-line section that's in here. And again, just save it out and you're done. Now, as you also saw, I had also created that H tag preview. So if I want to just a really quick look of this, and so in order to create that, I just did a simplified version of the WYSIWYG editor file. So I'm going to open this up in a new window here so you can see what I'm talking about. If we go back over to our OU and our editor, I basically just made a copy of the WYSIWYG accessibility and renamed it HTag CSS. And in here, I just have my HTag information. That's it. That's all that's in this file. That simple. And then back over to the XSL, then I have basically the H tag checker for the interior page right there. And so just as before, now instead of it pointing to the H tag for the main WYSIWYG editor, it's instead going to be pointing over to the H tag CSS that I just created. So that's how you would create those. So if you do want to do versions of your accessibility checker, maybe you only want to check for certain things like I did with that, with just the H tags, you can do that by just creating your own different CSS for each one of those you want to create. So we've now created all the files that we need. But the next thing we need to do is actually tell the pages how to find it. So if we go back to my accessibility page that I have here, and we go to the source code, up at the top here, you're going to see something like this on most of your pages. It's going to have a style sheet path where it's going to go to the interior XSL. So that's what's basically building out this page when it goes live. So we're looking at the preview here, and it's given it a title. It's called Desktop Preview, and the extension is an HTML extension. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to add in my own that I could actually use. And so here I just put a little comment that adds this accessibility preview here. And then so the same thing, you can just copy this out if you want to and just come in here and make your changes. So again, for my style sheet path for just the full accessibility, I'm looking at the interior accessibility.xsl file. I've renamed it full accessibility. And then here for extension, you do have to have an extension that is some kind of final viewable web extension, be that HTML, PHP, APSX, or even our own PCF will work here as well, because you can't have duplicate ones in here. If I made this one also HTML, I would only see the accessibility version. I wouldn't see the desktop. It just reads the last one that it sees for that on there. So if you do have multiple ones, you can see how I've done here. One is a PCF and one is a PHP. This second one is looking at the H tags interior XSL, and I've called this H tag checker. And so all you need to do is just add this line to any existing page that you have. Now, if you want to add it to all of your existing pages, you can just really quickly and easily just do a find and replace. And the way that I did it here basically is, let's say I copied this little piece of text right here that's at the end of the current one. And we went to my find and replace. And we put this over here. Actually, let's go back. So I wanted to open up that in a new window instead. There we go. So then what I would do is I would search for that little snippet of code. And then I would go back over here to this. And I would say, let's see, I started that at the E for extension. So then what I would do is I want the same thing that was there, but then I want to add in the additional code that I had here. So I would go back here, go ahead and copy that to there. And then afterwards, I'm going to take all this, including my comment, copy, and just paste it into here like that. And so then what it'll do, I would go and select the areas and the pages that I want. If I wanted to go find everything in the about section or whatever it is, or the entire site, I can do a quick preview replace. And it'll find anything that in there that happens to have those and show me what the results are going to be here. It's taking its sweet time. You can always come back to this if it doesn't show up here soon. All right, we'll come back to it when the search results and show you that. But that's basically a quick way to go ahead and edit that inside of all your existing pages. Now, if you want to add this so that way it's available all your pages that you create, basically what you're going to do is you're just going to copy these and then add them to the TMPL file. And so we go back over to your resources directory. And we're going to go to the templates. I think I may have too many windows open here. It's most likely the problem. Yeah, that was the problem. So here's the final results we see and found in the contact. It found the old one, the extension.html. So it's replacing it now with the same thing. So I have it here, and then we're going to add in the other items to it as well. So it's going to add all the additional content into there, and you can do that for all the pages. So that's a very quick way to go ahead and update existing pages with that as well. All right, back to our resources folder. We're going to go to our OU and into templates. And say for my interior pages. All right, what we want to do is we want to add in the ability to preview those accessibility items in any new page that's created using this. And so all I've done is basically just go into the TMPL file and just gone ahead and add in this into the TMPL file. And so once that's in there, anytime I create a brand new page, all of this stuff is already going to be in there. I don't have to worry about adding it to the pages anymore. Both these previews are already in here. So it's that simple. Once again, you make those changes, you're going to want to save any changes you make in the TMPL file. And again, you'll do that for any template that you have that you want to be able to have that ability to do the overlay, whether it be the interior or maybe the home page or whatever it happens to be. You would add that into it there as well. So that is basically what I wanted to cover today for the accessibility preview. If there are any questions, I'm happy to go over them with you today. And again, hopefully we'll have another one of these later this year where we're going to add some JavaScript into it. So floor is open if you guys have any questions about anything you've seen today with this accessibility overlay. And while I am thinking about it, let me go ahead and copy this now, and I'm going to go ahead and send this link to everybody through the chat menu for now. And so you do have that available to you. We have another question here. If you do not use PHP, you can actually use any extension you want to. It doesn't matter what site or what your site is currently using. Because basically all it's going to be doing is using that to render out the page that's there. You just don't want it to be the same thing your site is currently using. So if your site is using PHP, then use HTML, HTM, ASPX, something like that for the other viewers. But it just as long as it's different than what your default one is, it can be any one of the website extensions.
Hey, Billy, while people are typing up their questions, should we tell them about next month's Training Tuesday?
Sure. Let me bring that up on the PowerPoint here as well. There you go. All right. Barbara, do you want to tell them about this, or would you like?
I would be happy to. Our next month's Training Tuesday, we are going to be having on Tuesday, February 23rd. We're going to be talking about making the most of your images and videos. So we're going to talk about features that are available in the platform itself. So it'll be geared for administrators, and it'll walk you through how to utilize those features inside of the platform to make the most use of those pieces of media.
Fantastic. We did have a question come in from William. William is asking about what the alternate yes and publish no is. Let me show you what he's talking about, so that way you guys know what he's looking at here. Underneath the source menu, again, we have the additional items for the accessibility. Alternate yes means that it is an alternate option in the preview. So that's why we see it in the preview. If this alternate was not here, it said no, it would not show up in the preview. Publish is whether or not this is available to actually publish out like that. So when you go to publish the file, if there were multiple options here, like I said that the PHP was a yes publish, or the ASPX was a yes publish, those three different publish options would be listed here. So I could then publish to any one of those. But I don't want anybody publishing out this, because it's just an internal for accessibility overlay. So I set publish to no, so it doesn't even show up in the drop down box. So that's what those two items are doing inside of there. Good question. All right. Let me go put the other page back up for now. All right. Well, Barbara, it doesn't look like we have any additional questions coming in right now.
We have done an excellent demonstration. Thank you so much, Billy. I really appreciate all of the information that you shared. All of this information and all the resources Billy has shown you today are going to be available on our support site in the Training Tuesday section. So those will be up later on today. So thank you all very much for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Samuel, for the comment. Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye now.